Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking in a wet welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. I don't have my umbrella this week, which is why I'm angling the phone down at myself like this, because it started raining after I left my house, and therefore the screen is vulnerable right now. So I am hoping at this angle we should be fine, because I'm walking towards where the slight breeze is coming from. You know how the rain always travels in a certain... not always like straight down. Not really sure what to say about that one. Today I don't really have too much of a weekly update. I mean, stuff has happened, but it's not really that interesting. You know, went to my nan's house again yesterday, sorted out a few things, helped around, yada yada. Then, you know, kept on doing streams, most of the time selecting either fun trash, as we've come to refer to it, or stuff that was actually good, again to compensate for last week's fiasco. And it seems to have worked. Everyone is in good spirits again. I think I might go back to reviewing a Pops thing at some point, but not probably Night video. We'll see. I think that was there more ballet Pops. I forgot. Anyway. Point is, the goodwill has been restored, but it does sort of raise a question, and some of the stuff we were talking about on streams yesterday raised a question in my mind that I kind of want to discuss today for the majority of this Walking Wednesday, and that is, why do people delete their series? Or, well, I suppose, you know, so the gacha series or the Minecraft series, or they might discontinue it. There's a whole host of reasons, and some of them obviously have more of a logical basis than others, and other times it's just there is no logic behind it, and simply you grow out of passion for what you once had. But even that itself is interesting. I say this because during last stream we were reviewing My Passion again by the FoxySisters, that Minecraft musical, and the subject came up twice actually of the series being discontinued. Once was towards the beginning of the stream, and once was towards the end when BB showed up and actually stated slightly different reasons behind its discontinuation. And I guess that's a good place to start, I suppose, because I mean I could start with the classic examples of, you know, embarrassment, or, you know, simply that you've the thing has been remade, or I don't know, it's not really, it didn't perform as well. All of those are valid reasons. I can see why people have done those. If anything, in some of those situations they have more fortitude than I have, because here I am on the same channel I started 10 years ago and still and having at last managed to declutter what was there, but, you know, unfortunately it has left with a big vacuum as far as performance goes. I say that because obviously with the Butter Bunch I'm checking in, and that channel is obviously much more empty in comparison, but it's done by people who actually know what they're doing for the most part, and therefore it actually, so the stuff there that we actually get to explore was, especially with some of the existing fan bases, ends up performing far better on a channel that, of course, the only reason it hasn't been monetized is because it hasn't had the time to do so. I managed to reach, I reached the point that on the main channel that the Butter Bunch is at now, after, like, almost before the Butter Bunch was created. So in that same span of time, the Butter Bunch has flourished even more. But anyway, we're not here about that. Again, discontinuation. So BB suggested that the FoxySisters, well, I say BB suggested, BB and Ghost Kitty have stated that the reasons behind that are due to a breakup that happened between two of the actors. I think it was one of the FoxySisters and her partner, therefore, who was in the series. Don't know who that actually was, and so decided that it wasn't worth continuing in that way. And okay, I mean, it's not like I don't see the logic behind that. I just don't really agree with it. Because the thing is, if that were the only reason, it's not. I'll get to that in a second. If that were the only reason, I would have said, well, I mean, if it's too much to work on the show with the same person, then recast the character. Now, of course, because of the history with the mutant girl, I had to get used to recasting people extremely quickly. And it has been a consistent thing throughout the running of that particular show. I mean, it happens in a lot of other gacha stuff, particularly. I suppose Minecraft has had a more consistent casting for the most part. Obvious examples of exceptions are obvious, like, you know, the Exodus from Catface Studios. But then again, that's a prime example. AFMAO decided, okay, well, people have left. That is their decision. We are going to recast the characters, and so she did. In fact, I think there was even that example that surfaced of like that leaked video on AFMAO Fantasy, where Kenma was replaced in that one diary scene, implying that a new actor for Kenma was being looked for because Ross, aka your pal Ross, was part of the Exodus originally. Which means that I guess the season 6 actor was probably a temporary solution. And not to mention also that Kenma does sound a little bit different to Daniel, even though they were performed by the same person. I mean, you can still tell Ross's performance is very similar. If anything, Ross was also a replacement, I remember. Because for a while we had Surfer Daniel, as we've come to refer to it on My Street 5 years later. And yeah, which was almost an entirely different character. So there are reasons for recast to happen, you know, outside of romantic relationships, because obviously that was not the case in Catface. But yeah, if that was the only thing I would have said that. I mean, again, I have dated 2 of the voice actresses in the Mutant Girl alone, actually, and I did have to recast one of them. That was actually while we were still dating, and that was because I didn't get any line submissions, and the show must go on. That was my mentality. And in fact, actually, I do remember the second one, Monet, actually also said she actually was considering when we were dating to stop voicing Empress. She actually said it would have been a conflict of interest, and I talked her out of it. Actually, I said, "Oh well, I mean, we said this wasn't going to like affect anything, right? So, you know, we'll proceed as normal. I mean, it's also, I had also recorded that my longest recording session ever for a voice acting thing was 3 hours long, or 3.5. That's because I was 3 different characters in this movie that Monet was working on at the time. I think one of them ended up being written out of the final product, which was interesting because that was kind of like the beginning and end wrapping up piece. But oh well, redrafts of scripts tend to operate like that occasionally. But yeah, the other 2, very integral, mainly because one of them was the lead. And that was before we started dating, so if that had happened, she had to try and recast after that. That would have been a nightmare. Also would have been very disillusioned because I want to play these characters. Anyway, maybe not the other one, maybe not the uncle. Uncle Rick was a challenge, to say the least. But yeah, basically we agreed, yeah, this was the relationship that we had was not going to affect any of the acting we were doing, and so I actually encouraged her to stay on. And even after we broke up, both times actually, I never considered, you know, getting rid of her as Empress. In fact, I actually asked her about like the Christmas special lines, and turns out she remembered them and had resubmitted them. And clearly was not under the impression that she was no longer going to be voicing Empress, because otherwise she would have brought that up at the time. So, yeah, she's still Empress to this day. We did cast it back up, but that's because of, once again, availability. So I would have encouraged, if I were around, when the FoxySisters had that situation, I would have encouraged them to continue just on the basis of, well, your oh, I think it stopped raining. Yeah, well, you know, your show, like the character is not the actor, if you know what I mean. I mean, I know there's some performances out there that are indistinguishable from certain actors. I mean, even the Music Girl alone, people still remember Natasha's original performance as Mrs. Dysart and Adri's as Julius as like the prime, you know, the pinnacle of those characters, recast aside. But then again, other people have their other favourites, so I guess it's not as polarising. And yeah, there are some performances that in the mainstream are so distinct, but no offence to my passion, I don't think any of them quite actually got to that level. If you've seen my reviews, you'll know that the voice acting is one of the aspects that I am most critical of within that show. I was like, well, I mean, if you were to find different actors, I don't think your audience would be as concerned as you think that they would be. But then again, there's also what BB said after that. Apparently, one of the other performers became terminally ill, apparently, and that was disclosed in the most recent video on the FoxySisters channel. And that I can understand more as to a reason, because yeah, like carrying on something that somebody was a part of that is no longer there at all in life. That is far more harrowing to do. And again, it is an industry standard, I suppose. You know, there have been situations, obviously, where an actor passes away in a role, and they have to be recast. I mean, obviously, as a Potterhead, I have to cite Dumbledore as the main example. Whereas, you know, Richard Harris passed away after Chamber of Secrets and Michael Gambon took over. Obviously, there's plenty more examples out there. I mean, sometimes they draw attention to it, like in The Matrix, where they call out that the Oracle looks different, and other times they just continue with it, as if nothing in universe has happened. And that's probably the better version for like those stories, because again, it's the character in that instance. But I understand that behind the scenes, that is a very tough call to make, and I'm not insisting that anyone has to do that. So if that becomes the case, and it becomes too painful to work on anymore, then I can see why a series might be discontinued. The thing I won't say, because, I mean, it hasn't been deleted. I said the title of the video is why people delete their gacha videos. In this case, I would say, well, not their gacha videos, their shows. Yeah, FoxySisters didn't delete it, but if they had, I would have discouraged that again, because, I mean, if anything, that's a preservation of that person's legacy at that point, is what I would have said had they done that. So, yeah. That's another major thing to think about. I mean, there's this channel that I actually have where I did like one terrible music video for, because I was trying to move, at the time I was going to move my music onto a separate channel, and then of course, because the first channel the music videos didn't, what I did have on there was terrible quality. I filmed it in an extreme rush around my sixth form, and I didn't perform as well. There's also the one time I did the recent visual song competition on there, so I had two music videos on there. But the one around my sixth form, that was the major one where, yeah, I was like, this project is not really going to work. So I posted that. I posted a behind the scenes video of it, and that was it. And I considered going back and getting rid of that channel because it doesn't really serve a purpose, or I just end up getting rid of those old videos and doing the MatPat technique of releasing 5 videos at once to kickstart the actual promotion on that channel and the algorithm, and give it bigger announcement, because now my main channel has more a follower base, and etc. I decided not to do that because actually there is a person on that channel who talks during the behind the scenes video, but also and also he and also is in the music video itself. But yeah, he actually passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. So that's that video ended up becoming one of the only things I've recorded with this guy, and it means more as a result now. The song is still trash, but at least with the behind the scenes, maybe if I left that one up, but it will probably have ruined everything else otherwise. I suppose I could just reinterpret the footage and make a different song over the top of it. Maybe. Again, if I go back to that project, I've started ever, then maybe. But that's the reason I didn't delete those videos or privatize them or anything. Because, I mean, if I just put the one to private and I just watched it for myself occasionally, then that's one thing. But also, this guy himself, he was a YouTuber. So he liked being in stuff, and part of the issue was, you know, part of the idea was like, oh, we're gonna be on YouTube. I'm gonna be on Sean's channel and such. So yeah, that was the closest I ever came to doing a collaboration with him, because he actually did a theory video at one point of a different video by the time I was doing my aftermath theories. Not that there was any correlation, but still. So yeah, I kind of decided, yeah, for all those reasons, I'll keep that up, because I mean, even though he is gone, the video isn't, and part of him, you know, still exists. You can still see him or whatever. I don't know. So yeah, that's what I would have said in that situation. But again, FoxySisters didn't do that. I guess we'll talk about some actually deleted projects at this point, because in that same video we mentioned viarrah, because I found I've gone back to the Aftermath wiki a couple of times recently, and one of the things on there was someone talking about, oh, I found this really funny YouTuber who does a bunch of Aftermath references. I just so happened to be viarrah. And people don't know, I have talked about viarrah extensively, because she was the gacha tuber who people most cited during Comexry's gacha timeline, when they said that there was only ever one voice acted gacha production before the Music Freaks, and then even that was gone. It was called Renegade, and actually I then went on to watch that too. But yeah, people mentioned that viarrah got ignored, because viarrah started around the same time that I did, like a month later in fact. So, and Sapphire Wings was a huge deal at the time. If anything, it was the only thing people thought of when they thought of gacha voice acting for a solid like 10 months or so. It had a great run and came out at exactly the time that it would make the most impact, because I think it actually concluded before the Music Freaks started. I could be wrong about that. Or at the very least, if it didn't conclude then, it was well on its way. So yeah, for those reasons, it was a monumental series, and therefore it's surprising when I found out that apparently she deleted those. I'm not sure if I knew about that, because I feel like that seems like familiar, but someone said that to me. It's like, oh wow, I mean that's quite something, and that prompted me to do this more than the discontinued Minecraft stuff. I could also talk about, you know, behind the scenes drama as well, because I mentioned LadyMania and the person who wants to remain anonymous, who was a major part of those, of the writing production, and he felt like he had ownership of the series as well. By the fact he was brought on as additional help, and it wasn't his channel. And that led to a huge falling out, and eventually, because of the way that the series was going, many were disillusioned with the writing aspect of it, and decided to try and reboot the series a couple of times, and that's unfortunately a cycle that has not been broken. recent server stuff has also confirmed that she is trying to work on new projects that are not Mystic Hills. So that was almost beyond her control, and also comes into the ideas of a show affecting someone's mental health. But again, she kept a line to preserve it. Viarrah didn't, and I'm not sure why Viarrah deleted her gacha videos, because obviously, you know, I'm not in contact with Viarrah in any way. I've never actually met her. The most interaction we've had is probably me doing an audition for Enchantment 7, which was a different gacha series that was supposed to come out, and now only has a trailer and stuff, so I wonder if that one got deleted as well. My guess is that she wanted to focus on the meme content that seemed to be better overall. I watched the Netflix Rumors video that was most recent on the channel, and that was incredible on a visual level. It's amazing that, yeah, like from Sapphire Wings going to there, how far Viarrah has come. Which of course people can't verify anymore, because how would they? But yeah, it may be because, oh my goodness, my artistry was not up to where it is now, which is a kind of a dangerous idea, because then that also suggests that in the future that she'll think the same thing. It will keep, and the stuff that's there will keep disappearing that have made an impact with people. Again, I didn't like Sapphire Wings, but I acknowledge its impact. I liked when it started and then it like squandered its own potential, so I can understand that. But yeah, it's one of those cases where you really have to think, wow, like this might not be like, this might be enjoyable to me, but it's enjoyable to other people, and also it made an impact when it came out, so it should still exist. I mean, even if it isn't the best thing, it should still exist. I mean, you can learn a lot from it, and you can see somebody who was trying to push the limits of what gacha could do, which is the thing that I respect the most when gacha tubers do that. I've mentioned this before, but yeah, because I like to push the limits, and what doing voice acting at that time was that. But not only that, but also VR was doing custom art 360, the first person ever to blend gacha with live action that I could see, because he used like background footage, like a 360 cam or something. You could see people in the background, and the sound was realistic and everything. And that's just gone now. That's as far as I know. That was a landmark moment in the evolution of gacha content that hadn't been picked up, and now people are less likely to discover it, because the only thing that's left of that is my review. So I'm sure there's reasons that it got destroyed, but I hope it wasn't just a case of embarrassment, because I mean, okay, fine, there was a lot to be embarrassed of, but at the same time, but the best way to deal with that is to learn from it, I think. Then again, I guess I've got to say that I'm not exactly the most impartial person in this matter, because naturally, like I've said, I'm very apprehensive about deleting my old content in general. Like I said, the Jacob Butter channel has existed for 10 years, and during most of that time, I was not a good YouTuber. I mean, people still might think that I'm not, but whatever you think of me now, I was worse back then. I mean, I used to not have a microphone, I used to not be able to edit anything. The stuff I recorded was out of sync because the recorder I was using was trash. I mean, a lot of the videos ended up being lost because I didn't know how to upload manually. It just so happened that the thing that I used had a direct connection to YouTube, and therefore I never bothered to look into it. I didn't know the basic features of the site or what was involved in how people made their content better, and for some reason I just didn't bother to investigate until way later down the line. I mean, the truth about Travis, my most popular video ever, the one criticism that I got was, hey, you know, get a better microphone. by that time I actually had got a better microphone, but I should have invested way sooner. I think it was also because I didn't have my own credit card back then. And at the time I was thinking like, oh, I would get discouraged from, you know, pursuing this further. The thing that is caused me to waste time from my studies, and my parents don't like this, and etc., etc. They actually don't mind. I know that now, but yeah, that was an issue back then for me. Maybe that was why. I just kept on plodding along, doing whatever by myself because I didn't have people to either like help me out or you know, my friends were always busy. Even when they weren't, I didn't know how to record them properly. It was a whole mess. Again, I could have just looked up tutorials and stuff, and people use YouTube for most of all nowadays. But no, did not consider doing that. Yeah, so, but even despite that, I still made things, and I still like to see the evolution from there. And it's also because a lot of the stuff I was doing, especially the things that were out of character, where it was just me being myself, I mentioned a few things in there, you know, that were going on, like these Walking Wednesday videos, where I was giving like updates or stuff that was happening, and I look back at those, and I think, oh wow, I remember that. I don't watch my old videos that often, but especially when I was doing retro reconstructions and I was able to re-edit them accordingly, that was when I most realized, wow, there's, you know, these are precious to me at the very least. And so even if YouTube never actually, you know, recommends this stuff, and the people who are watching me now watch the new stuff that I'm doing, I mean, that's also fine, because by Irene, the new stuff is far better and more enjoyable for an audience, and I like to interact with an audience. That was one of the reasons that I did this. I mean, I said before, oh yeah, small community and stuff, but like despite that, I still really love to form a community, especially around the stuff that I do artistically, but also around myself, and people seem to watch for both of those things now. So as far as the YouTube stuff goes, I feel like I'm in a better place than I ever was, but the road to get there, I don't think I'm going to be like, I don't want to disregard the journey just because of the destination, or I suppose the pit stop, because the journey never ends. But I don't want to disregard like the stuff that came before, even if it was down to my own negligence. Because, I mean, I documented myself growing up on camera, or, well, in recordings mostly, of my voice, but yeah, I mean, even that, my voice has changed during the time I've been doing this channel. But yeah, I grew up as a person and as a creator at the same time, and I still have the option to look back at those things. And I suppose if we take that from, you know, the creative side of things, the stuff that I did back in the day, you know, I mean, at the time was some of the most enjoyed things I was doing, because it was something new. I actually managed to make a mod pack work before just Pascal. The few people who are watching enjoyed Captain James Tidd and stuff. But for sport, anything I did that was like mildly in character, you know, trying to tell some sort of roleplay story, which eventually evolved into scripts and stuff. By this point I was already writing, and my songs too. BB just said if you want that in the stream, if you want to get an idea of Jacob's content, watch his music, or like the evolution of Jacob over the years. It's like, yeah, that's true as well, because once again, when we think of my music production now, my writing, my vocals, my editing, whatever you think now, I was worse back then, like I said before. So yeah, one of those things. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll like listen to my old songs, or I'll do a remake of them or whatever, or I'll think in my head, wow, you know, just like jam along to what I was supposed to look like or whatever. I'll mention a lyric that I did or do a callback, whatever. Like, I like that the stuff is there. That's why I'm not like an unbiased person in this situation, because I know that a lot of people, when they grow up and they change as people, they're embarrassed by the person that they were to begin with. And that's kind of, I think a lot of that does come from social pressure, obviously. You think that you've got to be a certain way, and so you seem to like resent yourself at the time that you were more carefree or whatever. I saw this with MimiXD at one point. Again, not a person I've interacted with a huge amount, but more than viarrah. If you don't know, MimiXD is a very well known gacha tuber, to the point where she's actually listed like within the presets in the gacha tuber section on Gacha Club. I'm not sure about Gacha Life 2 because I haven't looked into it. But either way, very well known person, and I was actually in the last gacha video that she ever made, which was when she was trying to branch out and start going into voice actor stuff. And at this stage, I was what I've got to say. Yeah, but eventually, that's also like the first thing you see when you see like my things I'm in voice acting, because I arranged that by like order of popularity. Yeah, so it was actually, it ended on a cliffhanger, admittedly. I think on one of my lines actually, but it was kind of like, it served as almost the last hurrah. She then came out to try and do some more gacha, but then eventually ran herself as an ex-gacha tuber and actually deleted that video, or privatized it at least. And then I confronted her about this, like, where did this go? And this is the one time I've like actually reached out to someone and talked to them like, please put this back. Not just think of my profile, but also because, my goodness, like why did that happen? Or actually, I think it was because I thought there was like an error or something. It turned out that she was debating whether or not to remove it, and then I said, well, I don't think you should. Because, I mean, I get this is one of the ones I actually enjoyed. Like, particularly. So, so yeah, I averted that crisis, both myself and for her. And then she actually did a video of herself reacting to it. That's the actually the reacts to thing that she made. And this video wasn't like, you know, an embarrassing end to a cringe channel or anything. It was like, this is the thing they taught me about, like, I learned about free pick and stuff, and then also, there was, and it actually had like decent cinematography. It had a story that was like evolving from a music video that was there before, and it took some of the visuals from that, expanded it out. It was like very heartfelt. Some of the character motivations were a bit iffy, but again, not perfect, but still pretty great. And so I didn't want to thinking like, especially of horrible people, to think that wasn't a major thing, because it was. Like, MimiXD, gacha tuber or not, is a great storyteller. And that deserves to be preserved and celebrated. And so eventually, she put it back on. But then still feels embarrassed about, like, the old gacha stuff. I think, actually, I remember in the video, like, she did reacting to My Endless Hope, she actually said that she was surprised at herself, and I actually was very impressed by the end, by what she'd achieved. I was like, yes, you go. That is perfect. I also realized that she's based on the way that her face cam looks, she's probably entering the phase of her life where you are the most embarrassed of yourself as a child, and therefore you end up and therefore you end up thinking like, oh, I've got to reinvent myself immediately, otherwise I'm going to get bullied, or etc, etc. And admittedly, again, MimiXD, like I said, very, very well-known channel, and therefore very easy to find as well. So this wasn't like a small potatoes deal or anything. Like, this took a lot, but I think if MimiXD can, you know, find it within herself, I'm sure that others can too. I mean, like, going back to Mania, I guess, for a while, she still at least attempted to make Mystic Hills again. I mean, I feel like because of the way that her editing and stuff has evolved, and her trying to reinvent the story, almost as a combination of the two things, feels like it might have been a step back, because she said that the story was almost like a complete reinvention by the other person. That might have been the direction to go in, but at least she went in a direction and tried for her own sake and for that of the audience. And she was very honest and upfront about that situation. So I got to be thinking, like, yeah, there's a lot of reasons to keep going. I guess I'll also say, I remember that Ghosty also mentioned, as far as like speaking of bullying, that people found her content, and because of that, during the hate comments, she actually said this quote to me at one point: "I couldn't take the heat, so I got out of the kitchen." And that was the old Minecraft Fate series. And I can say this, I'm fairly certain that she now deeply regrets not keeping that project. Because she referenced it sometimes, she tried to recreate it with new voice acting, myself included. Hasn't got off the ground yet because Monster Compendium is taking most of her free time, so I can understand that. But yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, I guess that does tie into embarrassment, but it's also more social pressure. Whatever category you want to put bullying into, especially because of the AFMAL comparisons as well, because at this time Minecraft Roleplays, everyone was being compared to AFMAL. And we didn't know that she was going to stop, so that could have carried on to the end of time if AFMAL had not gone the direction that she did, which again, no one could have predicted. So yeah, that one especially, and I never got to see that one. I missed the series existing that I never got to see. I would have loved to have gone through that with Ghosty, because I love seeing people's old content as well. It's also cathartic sometimes, because like, people can laugh at themselves too, and be like, oh my goodness, well this, like Ghost Kitty, making Ghost Girl, so you're saying rebooting that, but not like removing the old videos. And yeah, she can poke fun at the fact that she had no idea what she was doing, or that the production ideas were not great. And if anything, she learnt from what we said in, like, before Gacha Review turned live, it was 5 years later, and we were going over some of the technical aspects. So yeah, that's what you would think. That's what I like to see as far as like artists do. Not think that their stuff is perfect ever. Acknowledge the faults in it, and keep honing their craft and evolving. I could never delete the original Mutant Girl. In fact, I think at one point I was actually asked by Jay particularly to take down the videos that featured Pop and Empress, as in like the characters that Jay created, and I actually pleaded, like, please don't make me do that, because Pop and Empress are essential to the story at this point. And also because I like, just like Sapphire Wings, the Mutant Girl came out at the time where I feel like it made the biggest impact, because if it just been like just another random voice acted gacha series at the time, then yeah, it would have like been buried, and even the people that did find it and do appreciate how long it's been going on for, and the storytelling and everything, that would have been far lesser. And I probably wouldn't have felt as good, so maybe I would have just continued it. It's hard to say, because I mean, the seasons all could have ended at a certain point. It's only because of the fan base that I decide, okay, well, I had more stuff in mind, here's that other stuff. But so yeah, what was the other example I had? I went from Minecraft Fates. There was something else that I wanted to mention. Oh, I guess I've only got 2 minutes, so I guess I might do a second part sometime in the future, because I completely forgot. I was going to mention a different series that's also gone. It's Line of Madrid as well, the Minecraft series. Don't know about that. But yeah, there's so many reasons to people I think to stop, but there's so many reasons also to carry on. I guess it just really consider that. If you're thinking like, oh, my stuff is embarrassing, I should reconsider what I'm doing, or reinvent myself, or stop posting, or anything. Remember, like, it makes you happy, right? People are going to judge you for that. This is more about them than it is about you. If it's a case of like a terminal illness or something that I mentioned before, that's a much harder call to make. But if it is the case of thinking that you've grown up, well, guess what? Good. And as long as the series that you have, or the content that you make, persists, you will have evidence of that. And people will probably appreciate you more for it. People love seeing the evolution of their favorite creators. So, you know, keep at it, and best of luck to all of you. Oh, Disco Pops, that's what I was going to mention. That video, if the content is deemed offensive, that was it I was going to say, then yeah, that's another reason to consider. I mean, if content deemed offensive or like it's hurtful to people, then yeah. But even then, Johnny's considering remaking that, so whatever. Clearly there are also fixes, but like, you don't have to get rid of like the entire show or anything, which is also a thing I think was on his mind at some point. Or just discontinuing Disco Pop's revival. One bad episode does not a bad series make, necessarily. But yeah, like I was saying, good luck to you all. And please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters. Subscribe to us already, and thank you for allowing me to grow up on camera with you. And on that note, until next time, farewell.